Good morning, guys. Today I'm going to start off by showing you the solution to yesterday's prompt. So we left off with our confidence interval for the difference of the two sample means between New York and Connecticut State SAT scores. Now I said I want you to do the same thing but presume a 90% confidence level instead of the 95% confidence level. So here's the only difference. You'd have to find the t-score. So we do inverse t, absolute value of, for an area of 1 minus 0.9 over 2, still 49 degrees of freedom. And that got you a different t-score. That t-score was 1.6766. You recall yesterday's critical t-score was 2.0096. So clearly it's a slightly smaller critical t-score than previous. Remember also a 90% confidence interval if we were dealing with z-scores will be 1.6449. So it's not that far off from the critical t. Okay, now, continuing where we left off, I'm just going to pick up with that same math. We were at negative 15 plus or minus the new critical t of 1.6766 times the standard error, which we already figured out, was 8.2462. That stuff wouldn't have changed. I didn't change anything other than the level of confidence. So that gives us negative 15 plus or minus a margin of error of 13.8256. You might note that I'm not going to exceed the zero bound here. When I subtract, I get negative 28.8256. When I add, I get negative 1.1744. So the statement, again, we are, in this case, we are 90% confident that the true difference between the two populations of Connecticut and New York when it comes to SAT math will have a difference between negative 28.8256 points and negative 1.1744 points, an entirely negative confidence interval, which, as we already know, means 0 is not contained within the interval. We are going to stay on one side of 0. The negative side in this case indicated New York State had a higher SAT. So had this been a significance test, which we'll do next time, we probably would have rejected the null of 0 difference. We'll get to that in time. What I also want to show you today is, again, the calculator and why it's going to be a little different in its answer than what you just got. So if I do my stat test and it's the 0 choice, the 2-sample t interval, all right, 2-sample t interval. And I enter my data, in this case, 560 was the Connecticut State mean, 40-point standard deviation for 50 people. 575 was the New York State mean with a standard deviation of 60 for 100 people. And I'm going to change my level of confidence to 0.9. I'm also going to show you that it asks whether we should pool or not. Pooling is only ever done if the variances of the two populations are known to be identical. How often is that going to happen? Never. Don't pool. It was a remnant of an operation we had performed in the past prior to newer technologies. Do not pool. We calculate and we find a value, in this case, of this. What does that say? Well, negative 28.66. which is pretty close to what I had, to negative 1.343, which is pretty close to what I had. The interval is narrower because it's using degrees of freedom. I don't know if you can see that. 136.0445. 136. Well, we used 49 degrees of freedom. Remember what I said. The degree of freedom that the equation is going to generate is a little bit less than the sum of the two sample sizes. Well, the sum of the two is 150. This is 136.0445. If you had looked on page 640, you'd see the equation. Don't worry about it. We're not going to be having to use it unless perhaps maybe a little extra credit somewhere along the way. All right? Now, again, we get a different value. It's because of that degree of freedom. It's nothing to worry about. The conservative estimate is appropriate. We are fine. Do not be concerned. All right? Now, all I really have left for you is a suggestion. I need you to make sure you know what we're talking about. So watch yesterday's video, watch the previous day's videos if you are unfamiliar or uncertain as to what we're doing. Make sure you're comfortable with it, but email me any concerns, any comments, any questions that you have about this, okay? The only homework I have for you is page 656, number 40. It's only one prompt. It's not multiple parts. Technically, it breaks out into 3, but it gives you a story. It asks you a question about the sample and why it's okay to use T procedures, and it asks for the interval with its interpretation. Just one question, okay? That's all I got today. So, do the work, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.